video, I'm giving you the secret in how you can become a brilliant yoga practitioner overnight. So you can literally wake up tomorrow and you will be the best person in the world at yoga. And it doesn't involve anything to do with your physical practice whatsoever. So there's this kind of mistaken understanding that in order to be good at yoga, you have to be able to do handstands, you have to be able to do the splits, you have to be able to do all sorts of weird like pretzel contortion shapes. And actually that's nothing to do with being good at yoga. Yoga is a way of being. It's a way of life. The physical practice that Westerners will call yoga is actually only one limb. It's only one part of being a yogi. So your physical practice doesn't define how good or bad you are at yoga. What defines how good or bad you are at yoga is the mind and the philosophy that you take into it. So let me explain. You might be on your mat in a yoga class next to someone who is doing all sorts of crazy stuff, splits, as I said, like weird back bends, just lots and lots of contorting shapes. And you might be sat there thinking, oh, I'm so jealous of that person. How are they doing that thing? I'm so bad at yoga. They're so good at yoga. I wish I was good at yoga. Provided that you aren't hurting yourself as you do your yoga practice, you are doing brilliantly at yoga. So the first limb of yoga is ahimsa, which means non-violence. And that means non-violence to others. So that's generally speaking why yogis tend to be nice people, is that they are living this life where they are trying to be kind to everybody and everything that they do. But a very important part of ahimsa is non-violence to yourself. So as long as you are doing your yoga class and you're not causing yourself increased levels of pain and tension in order to force your body into doing something that it doesn't want to do, you are the best yogi practitioner out there because you're not forcing violence upon yourself. You are adhering to the principles of ahimsa. And I know plenty of people that on the outside, they look like they are doing the most amazing things. They look like they are so good at yoga, but they are not good at yoga, or the people in my mind that I'm thinking of, they're not good at yoga because actually they are failing that first principle, which is non-violence towards themselves. So they are continuing to contort themselves into shapes whilst their back complains at them, whilst their shoulders complain at them, whilst their hip or their knee or whatever it might be is complaining at them. So despite the fact that physically they might look like they're doing something, way more advanced than you, they have fallen at the first hurdle because they're not listening to their bodies, they're not being kind to themselves, and they are committing acts of violence against themselves because they're pushing through these signals from the wisdom of the body that's asking them to stop. Please don't do this crazy back bend. I can't do it properly. My back hurts. I'm telling you I'm in pain. But the ego takes over and the ego wants to complete the wheel or the back bend or whatever it might be. So that person continues to wrestle through pain. And at some point along the line, they will get themselves injured. They just will. If they have that attitude on their yoga mat, they will have that attitude with everything that they do in life. They will always push too hard, despite the warnings and the advice of their body. They're not listening to their body and the warnings it's trying to give them. And by pushing too hard, they neglect this ahimsa and they will hurt themselves. So please never be disheartened by what the person on the mat next to you is doing. You might have somebody on the mat next to you who is very, very accomplished at the physical practice of yoga, and they might not be hurting themselves in the process. That is entirely possible. But please don't look at the kind of surface level of what someone's doing and assume that that person's okay. Because I know lots of yogis who on the surface can do all sorts of crazy stuff, but they're hurting themselves in the process. So they've fallen at the first hurdle. It doesn't matter if you're literally in child's pose or just rocking your pelvis backwards and forwards on the floor. If you're being kind to yourself and if you're breathing, you are a better yogi than the person next to you who is causing themselves harm.